Benny, it's actually with a heavy heart that we bring you this week's edition of The Medicine. Through the week, we learn of the news that Cole Turner had passed. The rugby league world was rocked by the news, obviously. A young man, 31 years of age. Firstly, deepest condolences and sympathies to the family, friends, and that little regional New South Wales community. You guys would be hurting, and our hearts go out to you. Such a sensitive issue, Benny, and it's so raw at the moment because it's just it's only just sort of taken place. So, without conversation and awareness around some of these topics, I don't think change happens. And we've always wanted to make positive change on this podcast, and I know that there's probably a lot of people dancing around the topic, but I just kind of felt through the week that we should speak about it. I know it's going to be close to your heart because you spent two years with Kyle there at South Sydney, won a premiership with him, and I just kind of know what sort of bond you get when you have that sort of success with a group of men. So firstly, how are you, brother?
Yeah, it's sort of probably hit everyone pretty hard in the team. I'm part of a bit of a WhatsApp group with some of the guys I was close with in those years, and we don't speak as often anymore. But I think it was last Friday. Just got the news about 9:30 at night from one of the boys put it on the WhatsApp group that he had passed away, and I have to say it hits hard. As you said, you go through your career and you play with a lot of players, and for me, when you win a competition, there's always something special about that group. You had to come together. I remember Kyle as a really young, quiet country kid, Indigenous kid. He trained really hard. He didn't say too much. And, for him, over the last few days, we've been exchanging photos and some videos and stories about him, and that the smile that he had on grand final. Just a young kid. He's probably thinking, wow, first few years of first grade, and he's in the big game and getting the win. And I know he had some injury issues and stuff, and he ended up finishing up and going back out to the country. I have to say, personally, I've lost contact with a lot of people that I've played with. But when you just hear these stories, you think, and it just makes you stop for a moment and realize that everyone goes off on their own lives, and we all have our struggles, and just disappointed that something like this is how it ends for him. So got the news at late at night, just before, jumped in the shower, and just had a moment, a bit of tears and a bit of emotion. Just sad. 31 years old, young kids,
Yeah, it's when I think about Kyle, just a big, raw, boned, tall, back rower, centre. I think he played a little bit in the centres. But unfortunately, with all the talent that he had, it was through some of the injuries that I remember most, some of the knocks that he got in those 2 years, or I think he played about 100 games. So I think he was in the NRL for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But I remember he had some neck issues. He also had some concussion issues, and probably even though it's only 8 or 9 years ago, the protocols probably weren't what they are today.
No, they weren't.
Yeah. I'm sure that. That'll be brought into consideration at some point, the damage that might have been done during his career, and he was medically retired as well. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of noise out there from people around duty of care from the NRL and the different clubs and so on. And I guess that's something that we're really passionate about, and we've spoken about on this podcast a few times before, that transition.
Yeah.
Not just the transition out, but, those young kids that are so connected to community, especially the Indigenous, the Polynesian guys. The community is everything to them, coming from those small remote country towns, just being ripped out of that environment, at 15, 16 years old, and put in the big smoke. And then they're provided tools, through families that are, put them up and whatever it may be, the support, all for that one goal for those guys to make it in the big time.
Yeah.
But at what cost? And I think that transition out is what we're always talking about. How do we provide that safe passage for these guys to go back into those communities when, the money and the fame and the bright lights have all disappeared? How do we help those guys integrate back into life as they knew it, but it's not that way anymore?
Yeah, and we speak about it all the time, on camera and off camera, about some of our old teammates that just really struggle with that transition out. And I think it's a bigger deal for those guys that come from those small country towns, because, as you said, they leave at that age of 14, 15, and they've got the support of their family, and they go out to the big smoke and they do what they do, and they try and fulfill their dreams and make money and earn a living. And then, sometimes going back then when your career's cut short or finished up and maybe you're in your 30s or your late 20s, a lot's changed. A lot's changed, and you go back to these communities and, look, you don't even have the network. All those years that you were gone, a lot of your friends have gone, family have gone, and you're sort of back there. Maybe that's just a big reality check for them, that they've got to start all over again.
Yeah.
And, look, we know countless guys that really struggle with that. And, I don't know what Kyle was going through. As I said, you just lose touch with so many players throughout your career, and I know the players that are close to him are really hurting from this. So,
it's you see the infrastructure that the clubs put around identifying talent, and the way that they communicate with the families, and making it all seem like it's a dream come true, right? And you see it all the time at the Dolphins, and that's the game, right? But just that transition out. They're just, and I don't know where it needs to come from. The clubs have a lot on their plate. The NRL have so much on their plate. We get that, and it's the reality is that in any sort of employment, when you're moved on or when you're finished in that career, essentially you're on your own. You're doing your own thing. So by no means do I think that NRL players or whatever need special treatment, but I just think there could be more done, especially maybe by the Rugby League Players Association, in identifying certain personalities that might need a little bit of extra care. So for me, like a guy like Kyle, when I think about his career, like medically, it was ended early through for medical reasons, concussion, injury.
Yeah,
that's a flag for me. It doesn't sound like, when he left South Sydney, there was a lot of family around him, so mightn't have been married with kids. I don't know that, but it doesn't seem to be the case, And what sort of environment was he going back into? How was he sort of set up financially? So, maybe the game in some way can put some people in place, like a transition coach, where they have a certain amount of touch points with guys that there's some flags. Like we spoke about it before. Guys like Cameron Smith and Daly Cherry Evans, and these guys, they transition out. They're obviously got families around them. They've got lots of support. They've got opportunities in the media. They're gonna, they've made the money that's going to put them in a really fortunate position. They've worked hard for that. But maybe there's the guys coming out that maybe don't have the financial backing. They don't have the family support. And they're all of a sudden just put back into this community that they've been just ripped out of 15, maybe 10 years earlier. And so maybe they do need extra support.
Yep.
Maybe they need a weekly phone call from someone within the game. And I just think at some point we need, as a game, to do better. I don't know where that's going to come from, but the identification of guys that are going to need more support than others needs to be recognised. And I think we can hopefully do something about that as a code.
Yeah, I think when I retired, the RLPA were quite good with me, and there's no doubt they've had some touch points with Kyle. Look, there was emails exchanged and phone calls, and you can sort of tap into it as much as you want and as willing as you are to engage. For me, I didn't really feel the need to as much. I felt like I was well prepared. My thing about it is, we talk about it all the time, Girds, is about being these young athletes. We work so hard to get big and get strong and make our bodies resilient for impact, and we want to win. But I don't know if we're doing enough on our minds, and what are we doing to build that?
It's a muscle.
Yeah, that part of us that when it's all over, that we enjoyed that part of our life. And I'm going through it now, but I enjoyed that part of my life, but it can't come with me, and I can't keep looking back at it in the rearview mirror. It's over. But that's that separation that we're all struggling with. And, through this, as I mentioned, where I'm on a WhatsApp group with a bunch of guys, and there was some, pretty emotional messages sent and a lot of support to each other about, let's chat to each other more. And one of the big ones that came through was, about things like alcohol post-career. Boys, it's no good for us. It's no good for us. I just don't think it leads you down the right path. And some really good conversations, but I'm not sure. I just know there's a lot of players out there that'll be watching this, and I think you really got to tap into as much support as you can when you finish up.
Yeah, and you're right about, being open to different options of growth as well, and you spoke about it there, and you know that I'm a big advocate for it, but not everyone's ready to hear it.
No.
And so, again, it could come down to that relationship that someone within the game has with these guys, understanding culturally where they're at and what they would be open to, and introducing different opportunities. It's because it's not a one size fits all, So it's like, okay, someone might be open to meditation or might be open to breath work or might be open to some of these different modalities that can, help you in so many different ways with, blood pressure, with stress, with just, being comfortable, within your own space. Like, how do you feel in the silence when you're alone?
Yeah.
Because that's where these guys get to.
Yep.
They get to that point where how do they feel about being in their own company?
Yeah.
And if you don't have the tools to handle those situations, well then it can get destructive pretty quickly. And they mightn't be tools that people are willing to listen to first when they retire. But if you get the right people coming out and introducing these things to guys the right way at the right time, I think it can make a big difference to people's transition.
What about you? Did you feel like, you growing up in Wollongong and that, do you feel like you were someone that sort of left your community? And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And never end up going back,
No, you never go back.
On the Northern Beaches, it was like totally, I'd moved on. And I think once you get, like for me, a little bit different to Kyle, who went back to where, he belonged. Once I got a taste of the city, I was like, I'm not going back to Wollongong. I love it in here. This is crazy, and it was an eye opener. But and I think I really love parts of it. But that do I think back now? Should have I gone back to my community at the end of my career? I probably should have. I probably should have. I would have had a lot more support there than what I had in the path that I took. But yeah, like I just feel like having these conversations and not avoiding these sort of situations is not easy, but I think it needs to happen.
Yeah, my thing of it too is, I grew up in New Zealand and left young for an opportunity to play footy. And I think with athletes, we're very good at staying on the next task. We get like that, you get like that tunnel vision, and you're just going. You imagine you're going for your goal, you make your debut, and then you go and then you want to play reps, and then you want to win a comp, and you're just chasing these goals one after another. It's 1 foot in front of the next, training day after training day. Before you know it, 12 years have gone past. Stop, look around. You're nowhere near where you're from, and some of the people that you started with are gone.
Yeah,
and
people move on quickly.
People move on quick, and I think that's a real hard thing too. Sometimes I think we go so fast as athletes, and we just keep thinking, what's next game, next goal. And I've even done it myself where you just stop and you realize, wow, I miss so much.
Yeah, how I mean, when you reflect on that, do you wish that, one of the sort of regrets that I have is that I probably didn't sit in moments long enough. I was always looking for the next challenge. And I remember having a conversation. I was in one of my first Origin camps, and Mum rang up and she's like, "Are you enjoying it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Mum, it's cool, it's great." She's like, no, are you really enjoying it? I said, well, yeah, it's great. She says, do you really understand what you've achieved and where you are? And I said, no, I just need to go out and get the job done. She's like, no, just sit in the moment for a while. And I could never sit in the moment long enough to appreciate where I was, the work that had taken and whatever I'd had to do to get there, because I was always looking at the next moment.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, I think same thing. I think once I got going in my career, it was just, as I said, one goal after another, and I'm just moving forward and I'm changing clubs. I'm moving over to Europe and things are happening, you know. Had some family members sort of pass away and it just seems like you just, maybe they're not hitting you the same because you're just on this journey. And then before you know it, you sit back and you're thinking, oh yeah, so-and-so passed away, and I missed that wedding and I missed that funeral and I missed a lot of events because it's just going. And I think sometimes then maybe when you stop and you go back to where you're from, if you were to go back to your community, you would just realize, wow, I'm really out of touch with this. And I think that's probably where, I look back now, maybe same as you, just didn't really reflect enough or just stop in the moment. A lot of things, but that's really the lifestyle that an athlete lives.
Yeah. And how do you sort of encourage that with, being in the coaching staff and that now is that, is bringing an awareness to, players to be present and enjoy moments for what they are, as opposed to, always moving on too quickly, part of the way that you like to encourage your guys?
Yeah, well, this weekend did hit me quite hard as I found out the news, the day before the game. We had the game and we lost the game, but, I sort of mentioned to my team that, I'd had this news a day earlier, and I said that, at one stage I sat in the locker room with Kyle, who's no longer with us. And at one stage you're in a locker room and you're a bunch of brothers, and then you're all going to go in different directions. So I said to them that sometimes you got to make sure that you really enjoy just these moments. Not that we won or that we lost, but at this stage right now, you guys are a team. Enjoy tonight. We lost the game, but I said to them, I want you all to go and have a beer and enjoy tonight, and just realize that you're a part of something special because you're a team. And I think maybe that's because of what happened the night before, the news I got, and I just wanted to push that message. And I think it's always important. We talk about community all the time, that just enjoy what you got when you got it, because we're all going to go off and some guys are going to have a tougher path than others. So, I suppose it influenced a lot of how I deal with my teams.
Well, your old club, the beloved Rabbitohs, have been in the news all week, and an old roommate of yours, Sammy Burgess, has been front and centre.
My old flatmate.
Always lots going on around Sammy over the last couple of years, but it's an interesting thing. He's obviously been moved on from the coaching staff there at the Bunnies. I think they've won 4 of their last 12 games, look like potentially missing the finals.
Yeah.
After middle of the year looking like the team to beat. Where do you think it's gone wrong for the Bunnies? And what do you think's actually happened with Sam and Jason?
Yeah, I'm not too sure on the ins and outs. I know, Jason Demetrio is the head coach. He's got Ben Hornby, he's got John Morris, and he's got Sam Burgess there. And there's obviously a disagreement between some of the coaches and the head coach. Seems like from all reports that John Morris was able to mend that and stay in his job or keep his job, and that maybe Sam's preference was to just leave because he felt so strongly about certain aspects. And I'm not privy to, I'm not too sure what his issue was with. The reports say that he had issues with the way that certain players were conducting themselves, and he didn't feel like it was a winning model, which he knows what a winning model looks like.
He does.
And so maybe he just thought, you know what, I'm giving my messages and my opinion, and it's not being taken on board, and you don't want to buy into it as a club, so maybe I should get out. Or maybe Jason Demetrio just thought this is just too much of a distraction. Leading into the finals, or potentially going to hit the finals and still capable of making a run.
Yep.
I just need these distractions to go away. So they ended the relationship. So very odd. I don't think can really think of where a coach has left a week out from the finals. I mean, can you?
No, I think Gus got rid of Anthony Hook Griffin with about 4 weeks to go before the finals.
Yeah.
I think they were coming 4th or 5th. So that was another strange one timing-wise. But, you would have to think that Sam, you know him better than most, like pretty rigid character.
Yeah.
I just get the feeling that he's seen something that he believes isn't in the best interest of the group.
Yep.
Now, I'm thinking he's probably delivered the message to Jason, and Jason's probably thought that mightn't value the message and mightn't think that it's relevant at this time.
Yep.
And I would imagine Sam just hasn't been able to let that go.
No, probably not.
He's like a dog at a bone. And I reckon he's probably taken it to him. And Jason's probably said, mate, this is, as you said, I'm the captain of this ship. This is the way we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't live with that, well, then you need to move on. And I think it's probably got Sam so offside because he just knows what success looks like.
Yeah.
He's, I would imagine, a rigid character. And he said, well, then under those, I've probably got some core beliefs. I've come into this industry and these are, the parameters in which I'm going to work. And unfortunately, if I can't work within those parameters, regardless of whether I'm the head coach or I'm the assistant coach, I don't want to be involved with that organisation. And I think it sends a strong message because, if you're a club now that you've employed Sam, you know what you're going to get. And if you're a player that comes into play underneath Sam Burgess, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was delivering a message to South Sydney on the back of them having a lot of success. He's delivering a message to them on the back of, as I just said, almost falling out of the finals race, hanging on by the skin of their teeth. And there is some questionable behaviour going on there with some of the players, you would have to say, right?
Yeah, well, I think, look, knowing Sam, if he sees something, he's going to have to say it. He's a straight shooter and he's very strong in his opinion. As Wayne said, he's a real man. And he's gonna give it to you whether you like it or not.
Yep.
Now, on the flip side, I would have to say it's JD's show.
Yep.
It's Jason Demetrio's show. So he's got to take that info on from his assistants, but what he does with it is really up to him. And I think from Sam's point of view, maybe once you give that to him, if he doesn't want to do anything with it, I think you just need to
pull back.
You pull back.
Is that right? That's what you would do?
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would give the message, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
But he's running the show. He's head of it. So, which also means then if it doesn't go right, he goes down with it. He goes down with the ship, JD. So, I think it was just becoming too much of a distraction.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it was the right call for Sam to leave the environment as they head into the finals. But now the pressure's not on Sam.
No.
He's out now. Now, JD's got to figure it out. So and from all reports, he's got a really strong relationship with his players. And as he said, he's across everything that happens in the four walls. So just got to trust him. And I think, for the South Sydney fans, he's the man that's been given the job. They're about to give him an extension. You just got to trust in his ability to lead the group.
And Jason Demetrio is still early in his coaching career, and you spend a lot of time under Wayne Bennett. Now, Wayne wanted Sam up there with you guys.
He did.
How do you think Wayne would have handled that situation? If Sam's coming in, if one of your guys or whatever it may be, and Sam's coming in saying, Wayne, these are the standards, these guys aren't upholding it, you need to do this.
Yeah, Wayne's style is he would listen to you and he'll go handle it.
Yeah.
That's how Wayne does it. And that's what's important. As I said, the messaging, it's got to come from the head guy. So that would be Wayne. He'd go knock that on the head. And, from all reports is people say that, Wayne did have different ways of dealing with some of the players at South Sydney.
Yeah.
And maybe Jason Demetrio is trying to run off the back of that and do the same thing. But sometimes the message is a little bit different coming from Wayne Bennett or coming from someone else.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
What about you in relation to that? There's been a lot of discussion this week about, different players getting different treatment. Like that's always happened for mine.
Yeah.
Like there's different players that win your footy games. And look, I think at a certain point of maybe their career or your career as a coach. Like if you think about Craig Bellamy, he pushes everyone so hard, right?
Yeah.
Like he pushes everyone so hard and everyone stays within that parameter. And then when they're doing their job and when they're conditioned to a certain level that he's comfortable, then you can play outside of that.
Yeah.
Do you think JD's got those guys to where he needs them to be before he allows them to go outside of those parameters? Because it looks like it's a pretty loosely run ship at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to comment, obviously, just not knowing. I wouldn't have too much of an idea how South Sydney run their setup. You know, he spoke about a new leadership model where they've got a leadership group and they like to give a lot more responsibility to the players about how they want to conduct themselves and how they want training to go. But that sounds nice, but as long as they know where they need to go.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about guys like Craig Bellamy is they're pushing you where they know everyone needs to go.
That's it.
And I remember when I was at South Sydney, you know, Greg Inglis was the greatest player in the game at that stage. He never missed a training session. Yeah. He was pushed and pushed and pushed. There was no special treatment for him. You know, Michael Maguire made sure he was at every session. I mean, I've seen him getting his knee drained to get on the field. Now, most clubs that would have had a Greg Inglis, they would have put him on ice. You know, they would have looked after him. Oh, Greg, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. He was drilled. He had to do everything that we did. We were all on the same page. So it depends what type of environment you want to set. But results are going to come back and find you out.
So you're in that South Sydney system. Your season's on the line. You get to training on Thursday morning. You as a senior player, are you saying something to Latrell?
Are we talking about the Luke Combs concert?
Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Or are you just letting that one go?
I would leave that to the coach. And I'd also every team sort of has a bit of an idea at what period of the season are they in. You know, some teams sort of have, for instance, you go 5 games. Yep. You say, boys, we're going to go 5 games and then we're going to have a social. Then we're going to go 4 games, we're going to have a social. All right, boys, this is going to be our last drink.
Yeah.
And as we head into finals, you know, we're going to focus, no alcohol, fix up our diets, try and get our skin folds down. There's that. So if everyone had agreed that, boy, we're motoring now, we're getting into the deep end of it.
Yeah.
And then he went and done that.
But that needs to be unspoken sometimes.
Yeah.
That needs to be, and the experience that he has, like you need to educate me. Who's Luke Combs? Like, is he a big deal? Because we both know. Is he a big deal? What's he?
He's
because
massive.
Kim doesn't know. Kim doesn't know Luke Combs. Is he an Australian guy?
No, he's American.
Kim Jong-un doesn't allow country music.
Yeah. He's like
up in the hills.
It's like a modern day John Denver, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah, he's
okay,
massive.
Mountain Mama.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so he's a big deal. Is he out here for long? Because we all know we talk about it regularly, the sacrifices you make to play in the game. And so is that not something that Latrell could have done post the season?
No, he would have missed the opportunity. You know, I think Luke Combs is on a bit of a tour around Australia.
You going to some of his stuff? You going to put your cowboy hat on?
Nah, not for me. I like his music, but I probably wouldn't go to his.
What's your favorite song of Luke Combs's?
Is it Fast Car? He does the new one. The
Tracy
Chapman remix. Yeah, I like that.
Does he do any originals or is he just
No, he's got a few. I can't think of the names.
Okay,
but,
no, we'll let that go.
But what I would say is, you mentioned it a few days ago, but Latrell took the moment to go up on stage, chug a beer. He knew thousands of people watching. He knew there'd be loads of people on social media seeing it. Now, that's all fine, but then he knows what he's got to do on the weekend. Did he do it? Did he deliver?
Missed his assignment.
He missed his assignment. Yeah. So that's where the pressure builds. You've put yourself out there, all right, for that criticism now if you don't perform.
Do you think if he performs on the weekend,
no one cares?
Sam Burgess is leaving South Sydney today.
I think some of the things maybe that Sam Burgess is not happy about. It wouldn't come down to.
It wouldn't come down to one situation.
It wouldn't come down to
the.
I think it's something that's been happening over time that's just built up.
Yeah.
To the point where, there's a breakdown in communications now between the head coach and the assistant coach. So, but that might have been the cherry on top.
Yeah,
that might have been the thing.
Might have been the straw.
Yeah, that's it. That could have been the finisher.
Interesting times at South Sydney.
You know, especially we'd say this, right? Especially if you're the marquee player, if you missed the start of the season through a calf injury, the club paid for you to go overseas to the US, put a lot of resources into you. We heard reports that when he goes into Origin camp, they send the South Sydney physio. Like, you know, he's almost like a individual athlete. There's a lot that goes into him, right?
Yeah, he's a thoroughbred.
Yeah, and there's a lot of invested people in his health.
Yes.
So then for him to maybe that's just a sign. That's a bit of a who gives a
but also not just to that, like to the playing group, like young guys that look up to him, that it might be in their first or second year of NRL. And they're going up there, their season's on the line, they're about to play Newcastle in front of 30,000. Newcastle won 6 in a row. You know, like you need your leaders to be front and centre, you know, and it mightn't have been much. He might have stood up there and he might have only had one beer on the night. But all of that, you know, we talk about the sacrifices you make sometimes as an NRL player. Like, you know, if Luke doesn't drop dead tomorrow, I'm sure Latrell can at some point get over to one of you and have that moment anyway. But I'm just not sure that was the right time and place to have that moment. But anyway, look, we'll see over the weekend whether South can. Well, they'll beat the bye, but we'll see how they go against. But it sets up.
You'd hope so, mate.
It sets up a good showdown, doesn't it, for the Roosters to see who gets into that 8th spot. By the way, I smell like diesel. Like it's driving me crazy. Like I've got this thing, like because I've got the big bus, right?
The and Sprinter.
Got the big Sprinter.
Yeah,
and it's my daily driver. Hard to park, by the way. Because I was too cheap to pay for like that, 360-degree sensor that would have bipped and stuff. So I'm just like bumping things like Rubbins racing, boom, boom, boom. Anyway, so I actually go into when I'm coming down the highway. My petrol tank, the lid on it, or the I don't know what you would call it, is big enough to get the high flow. You know what high flow diesel is?
No, I don't know what high flow.
Oh, you don't know what high flow diesel is? You drive electric car, do you?
No. No. I put diesel in my car.
Oh, do you?
I got a Ute, but I don't know what high flow is.
High flow is just like where the trucks go, you know, where you're going at, and as opposed to coming out at a certain speed. It's so
you're
high
trying
flow.
to save time filling up.
Yeah. I just
what do you save?
Maybe
60 seconds,
maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I'd say
that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's worth it then.
No, but it's more about the line, right? You don't need to line up in high flow. Because all the people like you are just in the normal flow. So I go into the high flow. But the problem with the high flow is you get to the end of it and you need to be really, paying attention, because what happens is this last spurt, the last spurt, and it just sort of comes out and soaks you if you're not paying attention. So I was miles away and the last spurt came out and just went all over my arm. So I absolutely stink at the
Diesel
moment.
Stinks and it's hard to get off your hands.
So what do you do? Because you were telling me about a special technique that I mean, I'd hate to see what you do with toilet paper, but what do you do before you fill up your car with diesel?
Because this is the first time I've had a diesel car. So, the first time I went to fill up with diesel, fill it up, and I just felt like, it stinks and it's all on my hands, and I went to wash my hands and I couldn't get it off. So, now when I pull up to a service station, I get out, I go over to the paper towels. Yeah. So I take out a whole lot of paper towels and I lengthen it out and I sort of fold it up. I fold it up and then I put it in my hand, and then I pop the lid, open it up, and then I keep the paper on my hand and reach through and get the is the Bowser? Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, get that off.
Yeah.
And then so my actual skin is never in contact with it. And then I hold it, and then I fill it up. Then when it's done, I put it back in, and then I fold up the paper and put it in the rubbish.
That's beautiful.
So I just never.
We might have to get you like a diesel glove, like a golfing. Maybe like we can get sponsored by a golf company.
I'm sure there's other people out there that do that. Maybe
I'm going to start doing it, because this stuff is just wrong. It smells awful.
Yeah, you don't want to be touching that stuff.
Any questions, Dan, while we're at it?
Yes.
Is there any questions this week?
Yeah, so we asked the community to send in more of their remedies. So I guess,
Cool. What are they up
their
to?
Tools.
What are they doing?
So from D. Watson Hayes on the Instagram, my morning run, it's my mental health remedy.
Yes. Go on, D.
So do you guys
Great
get
work.
out and, you know,
He's
pound
a
the
runner?
pavement?
Yeah, I'm a runner. But I've been struggling a bit lately with that because I feel like my calves are struggling with some of the running. But what I've been doing recently is the morning walks. So just get out in the morning and just 45 minutes, just go for a walk and just get
Just long enough to listen to a podcast, 45 minutes.
Yeah, 45 minutes, listen to
Perfect
a podcast or, just go for a stroll, have a look around, and you see a lot more on foot than you do. Yeah, some of the streets that I drive all the time, but it's just a different view when you're walking and having a look in people's gardens and stuff like that, just having a stroll. So I think it's a good way to start the day.
Yep.
So yeah, walking, running, but just taking a little bit of time for yourself.
Yeah, I don't walk or run.
You just saunas.
I just sauna. I just steam an ice bath. So good though, like we're up to so many different things, you and I. It's never boring.
Yeah.
He'll ring me when he's on his walk sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't ring him when I'm in the ice bath.
I'm just checking up on the Girdler kids just to make sure that they're all right in there.
Yeah. No, the chain comes off the door at 7:45.
Have you extended their screen time from
No way.
40 minutes?
Not at all. No.
Apparently the neighbours' kids have been throwing iPads over for them to try and
Yeah, probably.
save.
Oh, they do. It's funny that weekends they just can't wait to get out of the house. They got the neighbours across that run a bit of a looser ship, I would imagine, and like they're 6:45. Dad, off we go. They run over. I mean, they're on about 35 acres, and they got Polarises and swings in dams and stuff. So they tell me that they're outdoors, but the old man's got a TV that's probably about I'd say 3 meters by 3 meters in the man cave downstairs, and they get FIFA on it, man. And honestly, it's like real life. I haven't been over there yet, but I know what they're up to. Anyway, I let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
I let it go. I'm softening.
Well, Jay Noons kind of goes into what you're talking about there, Benny, a regular listener of the show on the Instagram, nature. So getting out in nature.
Do you earth?
Yeah.
You wear shoes, or I guess you
When I
you're
I
not
wear
earthing?
shoes. No.
I think
No, but
Jay Noons is a bit of an earther. I reckon he's taking
Yeah.
the shoes off and getting the toes in the soil.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think when you run around the streets, it's good, but if you can get on a trail run, that's a lot better. If you're surrounded by trees,
Different smell.
it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Swimming's pretty good too. For
You
a
like
bit.
to swim?
Yeah, swimming's pretty good for a bit of a alone time,
Yeah.
bit of thinking.
It's funny, yeah, because I remember when we were playing all the Kiwi boys, they hated the pool. They used to have this group and they called themselves like the Rocks. And honestly, they would just jump in and sink.
Yeah.
They didn't like the pool. You like to swim?
No, well, I didn't. I think that's the reason why I did it, because obviously I remember being at rehab sessions and you'd have all the guys swimming laps and then you have all the Polynesians just like all the Polynesians just going down the ropes and some poor young lifeguards there going, guys, get your piss, get off the rope. You got all these 120 kilo guys just dragging the rope under. But otherwise, what are you going to do? You're going to have to jump in and save the whole Ford pack. So for me, I wasn't a confident swimmer. And look, I'll put it out there, not many Polynesians are, great swimmers. Maybe the body and bone density is not the right size. But anyway, so what I did is I wanted to face that. So I actually went to swimming lessons.
Okay.
Yeah. So
did you do it with one of your kids?
no, I just no. I went to swimming lessons and I got the goggles, the flippers, and I started like that. I got into it, built my confidence, and
you
then
actually went and got like trained under someone that was a swimming teacher, or you just went and did your own thing?
No, I went and got some lessons,
Did
and
you?
then I joined a swim squad, and I started.
Did you
I
really?
swear, and at first, I could only swim 50 and back with flippers. By the end of a couple of months, I could swim without flippers. I could swim 400 meters nonstop.
Wow.
You know, so there was a big improvement,
Mate,
and I'm never going to be, a freak swimmer. What I'm saying is probably just tackled it. I had a lot of anxiety around the water. When I was a younger player, one of my ex teammates, Sonny Fai, he drowned over in New Zealand. And that had probably a bit of an impact on me around the water, because I knew I wasn't a confident swimmer. So I remember, like, when I used to get in the ocean or I used to get in the pool, I would get almost a bit of an anxiety attack. And that's just because I wasn't confident in my swimming ability.
That's interesting.
So probably the personality I am, I thought, I want to hit this on, I want to hit this front on. So that's why I went and went into some lessons, and I'm sure everyone got a bit of a laugh seeing me, trying
Did you wear the cap, the swimming cap?
Yeah, I did. But trying to get from like the seats into the pool with the flippers, like at first, listen, at first I didn't know that you should probably put the flippers in once you get in the water, not when you've got to walk 15 meters.
That doesn't come on the instructions, does it?
Like, with flippers, which is quite awkward.
Just the high stepping.
Trying to get to the pool. And I didn't, and no one told me either that they actually sell the little short ones. I had the big long scuba diving ones. So it was a laugh. Anyway, maybe I'll start up a Polynesian swim club.
No, it's a great story, Thorpe. I did something similar with heights. Like, I got vertigo. So I always feel like if I go up to a certain level, probably about like maybe 5 or 6 stories, and I go out on the balcony, I get sucked over the edge, and I literally get pulled back, and I sort of have to correct myself, and I'm not sure, and I've convinced myself over the years that it's just mental weakness. Right? So that's like a red rag to me. So it's like, all right. So I remember at the back end of my career, I was living. It was the middle of career. I was living out in Penrith, and I used to sit at home, and I'd be sitting there, and I go, I just can't believe that I get vertigo. I'd need to overcome this. How do I overcome this? So what I'd do once a week for about 3 months, I would drive into Centrepoint Tower, the highest building in Sydney. And I would pay like $32 or whatever it was, and I would make myself get in the lift, go up there, and then do one lap around clockwise, and then one lap around touching the window anti-clockwise, wobbling like this, like. And then I would go down and I would come back in. I did that for about 3 months, and you know what it did?
It fixed it.
Absolutely nothing.
It didn't do anything.
Nothing. It didn't do anything because it wasn't. I don't know. I don't understand. Someone will have to explain vertigo to me, but I wasn't able to overcome it. I'd like to try it again now. I haven't done it recently, but it's still on the list.
I like that we're facing our fears, though. Probably some of us with not as much research as others, but giving it a go.
Maybe I can walk around Centrepoint Tower next time in flippers. It is. Oh, anything else?
I think we're done, boys.
I think we're done?
Yep.
Okay, so thanks again for all your support. Loving the feedback from the community. Love coming in, spending time, and today was obviously a bit of an emotional chat there to start with, and again, very sensitive topic. So thanks for sharing that, Benny. I know it was an emotional one for you, buddy.
Yeah, no, it was good to just touch on the topic, and as we said before, trying to give a little bit of a different perspective on some of the issues that players deal with in the game, and also when they get out of the game. Really important conversation that there's a lot of support out there for players, but you got to try sometimes go and seek it and be open to figuring things out. But yeah, it was a great chat.
Yep. So Dan, over to you, buddy.
I'm just going to end this one just saying if any of the content in this episode was a bit confronting, we'll put some links to assist you in the show notes, but we'll see you next week.
Good on you, buddy. Thank you, guys.